Her story's turning into gold. She's taking her power back. Yeah, she's on the rise. Strength in her soul, fire in her eyes. Keeping God first, watch her dreams unfold. Her life's a diamond, breaking the mold. Oh, she's taking her power back. Yeah, she's taking her power back. Harmony.
Welcome to 20 Minutes of Simple Notes from Rita. Today I have a guest that is going to talk with me about stress and how it impacted her life and what came from the stress that she experienced in her life. She is the founder of Soul Sister Society. She's a strategist as well as a speaker. And my guest today is Anissa Ansley.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being with me on today. I'm so excited about this conversation.
Thank you.
Because look, we have all dealt with some form of stress.
Absolutely.
However, I know that there are levels of stress and it can actually have an impact on your life and not for the good.
Absolutely.
So if you don't mind, give me a little backstory because we are talking today about stress, the impact it had on your life, and actually what was birthed though from that period in your life. So if you don't mind, if you can kind of give me a little bit about Anissa, what happened to lead to the stress that you experienced in your life?
Yeah. So first, thank you for having me, Rita. I really appreciate this opportunity. This is a topic that is definitely something very special and to my heart, I'm very passionate about. A few years ago, I experienced one of the worst seasons in my life. A challenge in my life that I never thought that I would experience. I had just buried my mother in 2019 after being her caregiver for nearly 10 years, her and my dad. I was all in their affairs, and the worse her condition got, I became very, very involved in their caregiving. I was in charge of their health and their medical, personal life, finances, and everything to do with their well-being. Then the pandemic happened, and during the pandemic, I was laid off from my job, and I left a 30-year marriage. I was married for 30 years when I found that my husband was having an affair. This was not his first affair, it was his second affair. And so I had to make the decision after the age of 50 to make that transition and to leave this marriage. Simultaneously, while I was processing all of that, my dad became ill. He got the word that he had cancer. And so I went back into caregiving for him while processing this new life of mine and unfolding some of the things that was going on in my personal life between my marriage while trying to grieve that marriage.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that I had even put grief on hold to grieve my mother. So I was holding all this trauma and all this grief in me, and went on to build a business because I was laid off during the pandemic.
Yeah.
I built a business. I went into wedding planning, and I was always into corporate planning and things like that. And so I was building this business. I was working hard. Then I went back to corporate while working in my business. So I was doing all of this stuff and caring for my dad, processing everything. And I made a decision that after my dad made the transition, I was going to really focus on myself, and that included me relocating. I wanted to relocate out of the country, and so I chose Costa Rica to be my place that I was going to reinvent myself and just kind of go and get out of the environment that I was in. I had my one-way ticket in hand. I had booked and solidified a 2-bedroom villa sitting on the hills of Atinas, Costa Rica.
Sounds serene.
Beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful. Looking down into the city, you could see, and I envisioned myself stepping out into the green space and just having meditation and all of that. I booked up my buckets and my clothes, and I sold some things, gave some things away. Everything was in place. And then I got a text message from my doctor, my mammogram salon, and they reminded me that I needed to come in and have my annual mammogram. That mammogram ended up being another visit and another visit within that 2 weeks before I was to leave for Costa Rica. And I was diagnosed within like 2 days before I was to leave for Costa Rica with breast cancer.
Oh,
So that's all in a nutshell, in a quick nutshell, on how that all came about. Um, After I discovered the breast cancer, I sort of was in this daze, and not to mention I was going through menopause at that time as
that
well.
just adds to it.
So I was walking around depressed, in a I had brain fog. I was really tending to other people and other things. I still showed up for my adult children, my two granddaughters. At the time, I only had two granddaughters. And I was still showing up for people, friends, smiling, everything.
You really hadn't stopped to process the death of your parents,
No,
the death of your marriage,
no.
none of that, and then your diagnosis. You're just steady.
I feel like I was sort of doing that a little bit, but my body was holding quite a bit of trauma. And I was churching, I was
Yeah.
reading scriptures, I was praying, I was going through the motion of all the things that I know to do, that I was taught to do. I had friends checking on me. Thank God for my friends. I was going through just the motion. But when the breast cancer diagnosis came, I think I felt such a sort of almost like a, a release. It's strange. It was me just surrendering to God and to myself and saying, I can't hold any of this anymore.
Yeah.
It's stressful and it's painful. And it was just, I just surrendered. And I remember sitting in my daughter's room because I'd moved in with her after selling everything.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in the room and saying, okay, well, I guess I'm going to be here so that I can have my surgery, go through my treatment and things like that. But I remember talking to God and saying, I don't know what to do with this. I've been through so much in the last 3 years, in that 3-year
Yeah.
period. It was still so all new and fresh to me. And I remember just saying, I surrender. I don't know what to do. I need community, but I need a different type of community because I was tired of telling my girlfriends, yeah, this. They hadn't experienced what I was experiencing.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, you know, um, dishing on them, dishing on, and they were good. But I remember it hit my spirit, and God said, create the community that you want to have.
Wow.
There are other women out there that are just like you,
Yeah.
that are needing something. They need to talk about it, they need to heal. And we need expert led professionals to come in and just help us through process all of what goes on in our bodies. And I'm a sole believer that when I got that breast cancer diagnosis, that I almost did not go to that appointment because I was so ready to get out of here. And I had never missed a mammogram.
Right.
I never missed a mammogram in the 15 years that I had been having mammograms. There was nothing that the doctors were looking at before. I didn't have any calcifications. I didn't
Wow.
have any
Really?
previous history in my family or anything. I'm a sole believer that when I was diagnosed with cancer, that my body was holding inflammation and the stress, high cortisol levels that produced this.
It's amazing what stress can do to the body. You know, a
Mhm.
previous episode, we had a doctor on and she was talking about, she didn't actually in the episode, but after the episode, we kind of were talking about stress and how the body holds stress and
Yeah.
the damage that it actually does.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, because you
And
processed that's a lot.
it is, yeah. And I would tell the story to people, and they would like, "You need a Lifetime movie. This is a Lifetime movie." And yeah, it was so much to hold, and it was so many avenues to. It was like a roller coaster ride. Like, what next? What next? What next? And so that's why I say it was sort of like a peace that came over me. I know it sounds weird, but
I
it was
get it.
just when that breast cancer diagnosis came, I wasn't no longer saying, "Oh, woe is me." I was like saying, "Okay, God, what is this?"
Do you feel like when that diagnosis came, you finally, the scripture talks about casting our cares upon him because he
Mhm.
careth for us.
That's exactly
So
what
do you
it
feel
was.
like you were in, prior to this, you were in like fight survival mode? And
Absolutely.
yeah.
My mentor, John Maxwell, says something very good that stuck with me. He says, "We serve, solve, and sustain."
Mm,
And we have a tendency as women to serve, solve,
yes.
and we're just sustaining. And you hear people say, "Hey, how are you doing?" And you say, "Oh, just trying to keep my head above water." That is exactly what we're doing. We go into fight mode. We don't hear and listen. And as I look back on this, my dad's, the circumstances surrounding his uh, last few months or last year was really traumatic for me as well. I'm a daddy's girl.
I was too.
And I think that when he was passing, even though the doctors was telling us that this is it for him, it wasn't really processing in my mind like that. I He ended up developing dementia. I ended up there were moments I was so exhausted. My body, I gained like 80 pounds in like a matter of 2 years. Not even 2 years, probably. I was slowly gaining pounds. I had a swollen leg that I was ignoring. And I just kept going because I felt like people needed me. I didn't know how to balance life. And because I, I am a recovering people pleaser, or I'm really passionate about people, things,
Mhm.
causes. And you have to learn and be intentional about shifting your mindset and being intentional about uh, um, your awareness. Be aware of what you can handle and what capacity you can hold.
Yeah.
And so
Not trying to be
that's,
superwoman.
yeah,
Yeah.
put down that cape and learn to say no. And it's been a process, it's been challenging to even do that even now, but I'm learning so well. And I'm so thankful for it because it feels good
Mm-hmm.
to be aware of something and make the move, make the change. So we can be aware of things. We can be aware of the stress. We can be aware of our environment that we are in. But if we don't make those changes,
It's a
it becomes
cycle.
self-abandonment.
Oh, that's good, Anissa.
Yeah, it becomes self-abandon. We self-abandon ourselves, and we can do that unconsciously, and we can do it consciously sometimes. Sometimes we unconsciously do it, and I did a lot of this unconsciously because it was just something that you learn. Even women, we learn it from a child up
Yes.
to serve, to solve,
To always be
and
strong.
sustain.
Yeah.
Be strong. Be
Yeah.
strong. You can handle it. I didn't even know that I put my mother's grieving my mother. I didn't even know that I put that on hold. It wasn't until I was fully divorced and made that transition to move out of my home and making that transition to where I was going to be at. And I was sitting, I moved with my oldest daughter at that time. And I remember I stored all of my stuff in her attic. And I remember sitting there just feeling frustrated and lost
Yeah.
and just trying to figure out what to do with the rest of my life and how does this work. And I was stressed then because when you're 50, over 50, you're thinking about retirement.
Exactly.
You're thinking about how you're going to land this plane. And then all of a sudden, all of that is disrupted. And so that's stressful.
It is.
And so I went right into building the business, and I thought, well, I'll invest into me this time because I didn't get a chance to live my life. I look back on some of the journals that I had written, some of the things that I was writing about when I was young. I've always journaled from the time I was a teenager on up. And I remember looking at some of the journal writings, and I had all these hopes and dreams for my life. And then when I looked up, I was marrying the man of my dreams. I was sitting in carpool lines, attending piano recitals and football practice and all the things that you do. But my dreams got put on hold because I didn't really understand how to balance that life. And so when I was sitting there just lost.
Because it's like totally new to you.
Yeah. This life is new to me. How do I really, really manage my money without having someone to fall on?
And it's interesting that you said that because I had one conversation with someone and we were talking about sometimes we identify with titles, but once you strip that title from a person, you really sit with yourself trying to figure out who am I?
Yeah.
Because all these years you've been associated with a title,
Absolutely.
a position, and then when you don't have those anymore, you're literally lost.
Absolutely. And that is what I'm writing my book and hoping to guide women into redefining what power really looks like. We say, take your power back, girl. Own your power. Accomplished women, women leaders. We are some go-getters.
Right.
I mean, I've met so many women just in these last 6 years that are doing it. We are doing it. But in the midst of that, we have to be intentional about our self-care. And to me, power is that redefining what that new power looks like is alignment with God, but it's that quiet, internal authority to define what my own worth is, what our own worth is. This is independent of being worthy of doing for others.
Right.
So we feel like, oh, it's selfish. They need, but they need me. Or how will they do without me? Or whatever the situation is. Even if we are investing in ourselves. We're building businesses. We're taking care of families. We're involved in our communities, our churches, and things like that. But how do we balance that? How do we take our own ownership of our own worth and self-lead ourselves?
Yeah, and as you said, I think sometimes I think power, sometimes we get confused in what power really looks like.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's alignment with God. It's
Absolutely.
everything. He's the foundation.
Absolutely,
And I
he
really
is.
believe once we really look at things from his eyes, we see ourselves completely
Ooh,
different.
it's so good.
And I want to, since we're almost out of time, I want to get into Soul Seeker Society. That's all of what you just been through and what you just talked about led to you starting Soul Seeker Society.
Yes.
And can you give me a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So God said, build what you need. And so I founded this organization. It's a virtual community, Soul Sisters Society. It's a virtual community, but we do have some initiatives throughout the year that are in person, like the breast cancer walk in October. In July, we have the Soul Sisters, the Sisters Table, where we come together and we sit at the big table and we talk about our accomplishments, but not only our accomplishments, our accomplishments, not in career and things that we've
Right.
done, the
Yeah.
identity, but we talk about our accomplishments from internal. What have we done for ourselves?
That's good.
And so we meet on a biweekly basis on Thursdays in the community. I bring in expert-led professionals. Some are therapists, counselors, doctors, talking about our wealth, our mental health. And we really hone in on some of the conversations that deal with women, our stress levels, our management, how to manage. What do? We bring in hot topics. It may be divorce. It may be it may be caregiving. It may be just whatever the hot topics are. So
Right.
that's what we do, and that's the community. It's I use a platform where you could log in and manage. You can go back and look at previews of everything that we've talked about in that community. There's a chat, there's resources in there, and all kinds of stuff. So yeah.
I like that. And what is so powerful is even in your challenges, in your losses, you birth something. God birthed something through it. It's
Yes.
amazing how nothing that we go through, Anissa, and sometimes while we're in it, it doesn't seem like it, but he takes every single thing that we
Yes, he
go through,
does.
and really, as Romans says, he works it for our good.
Yes,
And
he
sometimes,
does.
because I've told myself this, get out of your own way.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get in our way, but I'm so happy to see you're sitting here surviving.
Yes.
You're a survivor of breast cancer.
Oh, yes, yes.
And you're thriving. And you
Yes.
did not sit and just die in what you were in.
Yeah.
You chose to birth this
Yeah.
and listen to God, and look at you now.
Oh, praise God.
So God
I'm
bless
so happy
you.
about that. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. If you were to leave a simple note with our audience today, what would that simple note be? What is the one nugget you want them to walk away with today? And you can look in that camera there. And
I want to say to every woman out there, rest is your power. And don't take that lightly. But when you rest, it brings you clarity and it brings you joy. And that is the new superpower.
yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And what is the
Thank
book
you.
that you have
Oh,
there?
yes. This is the journal that I wrote for Black women. It's called Rested Black Woman.
And show it to him in a minute.
Rested Black Woman. It's a 45-day journal to redefine your power. So this is a fully, it's actually not, you can do it more than 45 days, but it's golden. So
I like
wanted
that.
to present this to you, Rita. Thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you
And
so
this
much.
is yours.
I love this book. I love the cover.
Thank you.
Rested Black Woman. Ooh, Lord, it's really talking to me. This is the second episode we've been talking about
Yeah.
rest.
Yes.
So thank you so much for being with me on
Thank
today. And
you.
thank you, as always, our 20 minutes of simple notes from Rita audience. I really appreciate you tuning in. Until next time, have a wonderful day and be blessed. Bye-bye.
Oh, she's taking up power.